Hello everyone again. So I am going to go ahead and start our 9.3 part 2 video. So we have already covered the top part where we talked about arithmetic sequence, common difference, and then we talked about what a geometric sequence is and a common ratio. And then in our last video we talked about series and the sigma notation and how to find the sum of the arithmetic series. So following along, we are going to go ahead and talk about geometric series now. So in order to find the missing term in a geometric sequence, you're going to go ahead and find the geometric mean, where you're going to take the two numbers on either side, multiply them, and then take the square root. And we'll do some examples later. So with arithmetic, up here, we did the sum of two numbers and then divided by 2 to find the missing number. For geometric, you're going to take the square root of the two numbers multiplied. And then we had a formula to find arithmetic series sum. Now we have a formula right here for the geometric sum for series. So a of 1 is still your first term. The r is going to be your common ratio, so the ratio between the two consecutive numbers. N is still the number of terms, and then this is just saying the sum of however many terms. So let's go ahead and jump over to some examples. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some examples. So in the vocab, we said that to find the missing term, we take the two terms and multiply them and then take the square root. So we're going to take the square root of 15 times 60. Well, 15 times 60 is 900. Take the square root of that and you get 30. So the missing term here is 30. Okay, and then same idea with the next one. So take the square root of 32 times 0.5. 32 times 1/2 or 0.5 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So the missing term is 4 here. So with these ones, excuse me, we don't know the pattern right away. We can maybe guess, but it's going to be most helpful to use the formula. But other cases, you might be able to see the pattern and just go ahead and find the answer without using this formula. But then other times you might have to use it. So it is good to know that formula. Go ahead and pause the video and try the two try-it problems down here below. I would recommend maybe seeing if you can find the pattern and find your answer and then checking it with the formula. Okay, so if you looked here, 12 to 6 is divided by 2. 6 to 3 is divided by 2. But remember when we said the definition of geometric is multiplying by something? So we see that it's getting smaller, so dividing by 2. But we want to write it in terms of multiplication. So in terms of multiplication, it's multiplying by 1/2. So then 3 times 1/2 would be 1.5. And then I had recommended to check it with your formula, which is here. So the square root of 3 times 0.75 gives you 2.25, and then taking the square root is 1.5. And you can see that we got the same answer in both cases. And then the next one, we can't really see a pattern here because we don't have enough terms, so we use the formula 56 times 14, 784. Take the square root and we get 28. Again, I just want to remind you that if you have any questions, please email Ms. Holstad and I, and one of us will get back to you. And then if it doesn't make sense still, we can go over it on the live video. So we're going to jump to some more examples. So now we are going to find the sum. And so remember earlier we said the sum is found by doing the first term times 1 minus the ratio of n to the power of n, and then 1 minus r. So we need the first term, which remember is just the first one in the series. So there's our first terms. And then we need to know how many terms there are. So we're looking for that n, which is here, and we're going to actually plug it in there too, right? And then we need to look for the ratio, and we're going to plug it into both spots where that r is. So to find the ratio, you need to find what it's multiplying by. So 1 to 3 would be multiplying by 3. 3 to 9 would be multiplying by 3. So our common ratio is 3. We'll go ahead and find the common ratio of this one as well. So 256 to 192 and 192 to 144. So in this case, it's kind of hard to see what the pattern is. So to find it, you do 192 divided by 256, and then you would check 144 divided by 192, and they should be the same. If not, then it's not a geometric sequence. In this case, they are the same, and it is 0.75, so this is our common ratio here. Okay, so now we have everything, so we're going to plug it in. So again, a of 1 is the first term, n is the number of terms there are, so there are 8 terms in this series, and then the ratio is what you're multiplying by each time. So now let's go ahead and plug that in. So we have the sum of 8 terms equals the first term, which is 1, times 1 minus the common ratio, which we said is 3, raised to the number of terms, which is 8, and then divided by 1 minus the common ratio. So again, this 1 came from there. So now you go ahead and simplify it. So you would do 3 to the 8th power first, and then 1 minus that, times 1 divided by -2. My suggestion is plugging this all into your calculator with the parentheses and everything. And then when you plug it into your calculator, also plug in the bottom with parentheses, or only plug in -2. So if you plug that into your calculator, your final answer is the sum of all 8 terms is 3,280. If plugging it into your calculator or simplifying this is something that you need to work on or need help on, please email Ms. Holstad or I, and we will help you. I can try and do a video on like how to put these into the calculator if needed. Just let me know. So that's the answer to this one. Now doing the same thing here. So we have the sum of 7 terms, this one right here, equals our first term, which we found was 256 because we're looking at this number right there, and then times 1, jumping ahead there, 1 minus the common ratio, which we said is 0.75, to our n power, which is 7, and then close the parentheses, and then divided by 1 minus the common ratio. Again, excuse me. Okay, and then go ahead and plug that into your calculator. Again, if calculator is an issue, please email Ms. Holstad and I. Okay, so when you plug that in, you get the sum of the 7 terms is 887.3125. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and give you some try-it problems. Make sure to pause the video and try the try-it problems on your own first. Okay, so here are the try-it problems. Quick reminder that you are using this formula here. Sum of the number of terms equals the first term times 1 minus the ratio raised to the nth, all divided by 1 minus the common ratio. So go ahead and take a minute, pause the video, try these, and then check your answers. Okay, so gave you some time to do the try-it problems. So again, we're looking for the first term first, and that goes here. And then we also need the ratio, so what is it multiplying by each time? In this case, it was multiplying by 3. And we plug that in right here and right here. And then the number of terms goes in right here and right here. And then plug that into your calculator and you get your answer. And then for this one, you can have a negative ratio because you can multiply by a negative number. So we have -2 to 4. So negative times a negative would get us back to this positive. And then timesing by another negative would bring us back to negative. So you can see the pattern of negative, positive, negative, positive. So multiplying by a negative would change that. And so then the next thing to check is 2 times what gets you to 4? Well, 2. 4 times what gets you to 8? 2. So our ratio is -2. So we're going to plug in -2 here and here. Parentheses do matter. So I'm going to write that here. Parentheses do matter. Okay, so when you're putting this into your calculator, these parentheses right here need to be there in order to get the correct answer. If you don't put the parentheses around -2, then the 13 will only go to the 2 and not the negative, and you want it to go to both. Then we also needed to plug in our first term, which was -2, so that's that. And then the last thing you plug in is the number of terms, and you plug it in here saying that you're finding the sum of all 13 terms, and you also have it in your formula, and then plug that in. Again, make sure you're paying attention to parentheses, and when you're plugging it in, you either need to simplify this bottom one or add parentheses when you put it into your calculator. Otherwise, it'll do the division of 1 first and then subtract or the ratio afterwards. And you want this to be done before you divide. Okay, well that is it for today's lesson. I hope that this was helpful and made sense. If at any point you have some feedback or questions or concerns, please, please, please email both Ms. Holstad and I as we are learning through this process as well. I hope you're doing well. We miss you. And again, email with any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks.